Hey there, this is the One Boom, and today we're talking about the EGRT-17 assault rifle just added with Season 2 of Black Ops 7. Took me a while to get this review out because I got sick after my birthday weekend, so sorry about the delay. Finally, a season has added a weapon really worth talking about, an actually unique and fun to use rifle with quality iron sights and an interesting gimmick. Now, the main things that attribute to a weapon's feel is its rate of fire to recoil ratio. That's kind of how we define a lot of our, especially assault rifle archetypes, right? You have the lower rate of fire, lower recoil, ICR type weapons. You have the more mid rate of fire, low recoil, that's like an ACR, right? Then you have the really fast rate of fire with a little bit more mid recoil, that's like a Black Ops 1 FAMAS. You really kind of get the feel of a gun immediately based on how fast it fires relative to the amount of kick that it has. Now, when I used to use the Peacekeeper Mark I, I tried to make it more like an M4, because M4s in Call of Duty tend to fire around 810 RPM, somewhere in that ballpark. And this game really doesn't have a versatile M4 equivalent. In fact, our M15 Mod 0 is closer to something like an ICR or an ACR. So it goes without saying, I was pretty excited for this weapon because we just haven't really had a weapon that fits this niche in the AR category yet, and I'm happy that it's finally here. Handling wise, it's weirdly on par with the EGRT-17, having the same aim down sight speed, jump aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. But the slide and dive to fire speeds on the EGRT are slower, so that's kind of interesting. Now, don't let the appearance of this weapon fool you. I've had people in my stream chat be confused about this, as well as YouTube comments. The EGRT-17 is actually not that heavy. It's comparable to the MXR-17 with some of those stats, but in terms of like movement speed and everything, you're kind of fine. The only way you're going to go any faster is with an X9 Maverick or the Peacekeeper. Everything else that is a little bit better than it in one category is worse than it in another category. So it's sort of a wash all the way around. So really the only gun you're competing with across the board is the Peacekeeper. But the Peacekeeper has minuscule range and much higher recoil. The Peacekeeper, of course, is supposed to be more in a SMG AR hybrid role, whereas this is a full-on assault rifle. Our handling traits deserve to be a little bit lower when you factor in that the maximum damage range for the Peacekeeper is going to be about up to 15 meters, and the EGRT is out to 44 meters. So this is an AR, not a hybrid. This honestly reminds me of a mix between like an M4 from Modern Warfare 2019 and an SC-2010 from Call of Duty Ghosts. It's versatile and good at being versatile. And of course, base stats in this game don't really matter. Listing off all the base stats is not going to affect you on a moment-to-moment basis because any stat shortcomings can be made up for with attachments, and you're going to see that soon. We're going to make something that feels more like a traditional Call of Duty M4, plus its added gimmick. Now, first things first, its iron sights are immaculate, and you can see here on the recoil wall, this thing goes up a little bit left, which would be kind of concerning, left recoil being a little bit harder to control, on an analog stick at least, and then it goes right. But as you can see, it's basically a straight line. Mostly vertical, not too much horizontal, and what horizontal is there isn't going to affect you in the ranges you should be fighting. So right out of the gate, one of the best assault rifles in the game in my opinion, if you factor in its rate of fire, its maximum damage range, and it's beautiful open sights. This game has terrible, awful sights, and while I could argue these sights are not the prettiest looking we've ever seen, they are some of the most usable iron sights we've ever seen in a COD game. This is starting to feel more like a sales pitch than a review, so let's get into some of the shortcomings here. Slide to fire and dive to fire speeds do feel clunky. Trying to be a movement god with this rifle is going to leave you feeling probably pretty frustrated, and we're going to try to avoid that with our build. Is its biggest shortcoming. Even the MXR-17 has better slide and dive to fire speeds, so this thing is a little bit heavier. Just don't let anyone tell you it's like a marksman rifle or something that's going to give you concrete shoes when you use it. It's really not that slow. And again, versatility is more important in my opinion than raw anything. In Call of Duty, it's better to be, especially on these maps, right? Like, 'cause these maps are sort of simple and predictable. It's better to be a jack of all trades than a master of one particular thing in this game, as well as this game has a serious assault rifle meta with the added nonsense of the incredibly fast aim walking movement speeds that we can obtain that just allow us to pre-aim with ARs and head glitch with ARs. So you are playing to the meta's strengths by using a weapon that maybe isn't quite so movement god adjacent as it is just ultimately dependable. This weapon is a 5-shot kill at 811 rounds per minute. That means you're going to be taking people out in 295 milliseconds if you don't miss a shot. If you mix in 3 headshots, you can get a 4-shot kill. But TTK numbers don't really matter. When it comes down to it, you have predictable recoil with a faster fire rate than a lot of the other assault rifles, which means you have more leniency when missing a shot, which means that your actual felt ease of use is much higher using this than even compared to something like an M15, which is actually going to be more punishing when missing shots on moving targets. Now, when it comes to building the weapon, do we build it to counteract its weaknesses, or do we exemplify its strengths? In this case, I say we exemplify the strengths of the weapon. In a different game with a different meta, hell, like in Black Ops 6, I might have said maybe give it more movement speed, maybe worry about that. But in this game, not so much. So much of the public match meta in this game is pre-aiming, being pre-aimed, holding angles, and aim walking. But we have to talk about the gimmick first before we get into my loadout. The gimmick of this weapon is that bullets don't go through materials, they ricochet off. There is a prestige attachment that allows the bullets to ricochet multiple times, I believe 3 times. It also helps with damage range and bullet velocity, but I'm not terribly concerned with that attachment. If you want to build that into a Gunfighter build, great. If you're not using Gunfighter, I would stay away from it because it hurts your recoil control for honestly something that you probably shouldn't be banking on. But it is cool, it's fun, I'm glad it's there. But my attachments are as follows: the suppressor, the extended magazine, the first shot recoil foregrip, the accuracy grip. This is going to help you so much with just making sure when you start hitting somebody, you keep hitting them for that duration. Just don't hold the trigger on everybody all the time. And then we're going to use the, of course, ADS movement stock. That's total meta. You always want to be using that on like just about 90% of your weapons. And the next attachment is the Sentry Pro hand stop. The aiming idle sway, aim walking steadiness, aiming idle sway delay, and horizontal recoil control for free. Might as well take it. I tried buffer springs for a while. It was pretty nice, but because of my rear grip choice, I didn't really have any problems with my vertical recoil. So this just allows you to walk, keep your beautiful iron sight steady, and just put anybody in front of your gun in a respawn screen. It's pretty great. This is a very powerful 5-shot kill, low recoil weapon, but we can make it a little bit better. So we're also going to do a Gunfighter build here. If you decide to use Gunfighter, everything stays the same except we're going to use the damage range and bullet velocity barrel. We're going to swap out for the quick step foregrip to help with that aim walking movement speed even more. Then we're going to same attachments as last time, plus the 1 milliwatt instinct laser to get that mobility up a little bit. Might as well just make up for a little bit of its shortcomings for free. And then the buffer spring attachment to keep that recoil more under wraps. You're going to be an aim walking god, you're going to be reacting to gunfights faster, you're going to be controlling recoil. And when it comes to the gimmick, when it comes to that ricocheting bullet gimmick, a lot of people are going to tell you it's useless. It's absolutely not. It's no more useless than shooting through walls. You're not supposed to be shooting through walls all the time. You're not supposed to be fishing for kills with it. You're not supposed to be fishing for kills with this. What you do instead is when somebody ducks around a corner, when somebody goes between 2 walls in a hallway, you can chase them. Just keep shooting into the room, and if they overcorrect, they'll fall right into the trajectory of your ricochet, and you might deal a killing blow, or you at least might damage them. You have to remember, this is a game where you get the same amount of score for a kill as you do an assist. It is always worth it to put hit markers on enemies. You should not be fishing for easy kills with the ricochet. That's not what it's there for. It provides something else entirely. There are more hallways and rooms and little corridors and stuff you can bounce bullets in than there are walls you can shoot through in this game. You damage somebody, they start to get away, chase them, bounce the bullets around their room. And again, when you're playing with Gunfighter and you want to use the Prestige attachment to have more ricochet fun, that's great, especially in hardcore. I've heard it's a lot of fun, but don't build around the ricochet. The ricochet is nice, just remember you're not going to be shooting through cover. So some gunfights you might have won if you could have shot through a little bit of their thin cover. You might lose now because the bullet's going to bounce off of that. But don't fret, you have your weakness there, but the strength that makes up for it is not to be understated. So whether you call it the EGRT or the EGRT-17, this rifle is a breath of fresh air in the game. I've actually not wanted to use a gun in Call of Duty as much as this one in a while. It is a fun gimmick returning from Infinite Warfare with the ricocheting rounds. Aesthetically, it's not my most favorite, but I applaud it for being unique. I like that it's unique. I like that it looks like it never existed, and I just give them props for making a versatile, clean iron-sighted rifle with a fun gimmick. You don't need 8 attachments on this gun, which is also nice. I don't feel like I need to use an optic and a range extender and 3 recoil dampening attachments. I don't feel like I need to make up for this gun existing. I can just play with it however I want. So don't take my class suggestions to heart. If you want to just play with it, that's a big part of this review, is that this gun is fun to just play with. Just customize it, have a good time. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when I see you. I'm going to review the new SMG next.